Hello and welcome to another episode of Raw Chatter. I am delighted to say that I am not solo today. You've had quite a few episodes of me being on my own, which I know some of you like, but I have got an amazing guest with me today. Now, Jamima and I actually got introduced through networking and recognized that we had so many things in common. We had an amazing conversation, and I invited Gemma to be a guest on my podcast because she has got such an incredible story to share with you guys that I think so many of you are going to resonate with. Now, Jemima is actually a therapist and she's a coach, but I'm not a fan of labels because she's so much more than that. And so I'm just going to hand over to you, Jemima. Please tell people what you do and, more importantly, why you do it, what got you into it.
Thank you. And thank you for having me here. It's such a pleasure always to talk about this stuff because it's interesting because what we do as therapists, as coaches, as people who work to help other people, it's usually because that's something we've been through ourselves and we want to give the help that we received or that we found. And that's exactly what it's been like for me. I was diagnosed with depression and I had anxiety when I was 21.
Right.
I was ruled by anxiety. I spent my whole life trying to manage situations and where I was sitting and what I was doing with this kind of ball of anxiety the whole time in my stomach. And
just going to jump in there because anxiety now for so many people, it's a word, isn't it, that gets bandied about so much. And I think so a lot of people kind of think they know what it means, but can you help people to understand what it actually felt like? So you mentioned a ball in your stomach.
Yeah.
Talk about the physical sensations that accompany anxiety.
Well, I used to call it doom tummy. I'd wake up with doom tummy. So it's just that sense of dread, something was going to happen, extremely tense, not really sort of questioning it or wondering why. It was just this general sense of tension and fear of people, really, in social situations. I didn't identify that for about another 15, 20 years that it was actually social anxiety. It was like, oh yeah.
Right.
And it was, I was about, like 10, 15 years. I was about mid-30s or something. And I went to my mum's and for lunch and she said, oh, I've invited some friends. And I just was terrified. And my husband at the time went, just drink. He said to me, I'll drive home. Like he totally knew. And I was like, my own mother doesn't understand because I haven't shared it with her. I've just lived with it for so long.
And I guess you kind of normalized it. This is if you're saying you woke up with it, I guess over time you just kind of went, well, this is just normal. Then this is who I am. This is how I feel.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Yeah, it was part of my identity. It was how I functioned. It made me do things because I have to do this. I have to not let that person down. I don't think I would have got out of bed if I didn't have it because it was like this. It helped in the sense that it's like making me get up and do things.
Right.
But it was exhausting. I'd get to the end of the day, I'd have to drink to calm myself down. So I just thought it was confidence because when I've had a couple of glasses of wine, I'm fine. So it's okay. Yeah. But then you're hungover the next day or you're not working well. And the sort of social anxiety side of it meant that I found it difficult to stay in a job. So I would temp. So I would go to different places. So I didn't form particularly deep relationships with people. I was always moving.
Right. So that in and of itself meant that you were unwittingly putting yourself through the same scenario of getting to know people again and again and again, which in itself for a lot of people who don't necessarily have social anxiety, that's not the easiest of things to keep on doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember even once we went on holiday for a long weekend to Belgium and I started getting awkward going to the same coffee shop. Right. 3 mornings in a row. I was like, this is feeling a bit like it was really interesting. Like, why is this a problem? I'm going to meet the same person and go, can I have the same coffee I had yesterday? That felt really uncomfortable. Really? So these kind of signs along the way that I sort of didn't really think it again. I didn't think too deeply into it because I didn't know
why would
you
now.
Exactly. This is how I exist. This is how I get through things. So it's always in the back of my mind, and I've always trying to find a way to feel better. But when I was 20, 21, I started self-harming, and that was I knew I didn't want to do that. So there was
Right.
a moment where I smashed a glass against the wall and I started trying to cut myself, and I was like, I don't want this.
Right.
There was part of me that was just
It's kind of new.
no.
So part of you wanted to do it, but there's another part of you knew that you were stepping into dangerous territory.
Exactly. And that's
Yeah.
when I went to the doctor. I was like,
Right.
this is beyond my control. I can't do this. So I was given antidepressants, sent to see a counsellor. You get 3 sessions with the NHS at that point, which was fairly soon after. I think there's a huge waiting list now, but that's
Yeah.
and the therapist said to me, she knew that she couldn't hold me,
Right.
and she knew that I needed more. So she's like recommended that I go and seek private care, basically.
Right. Yeah.
I got 6 sessions through my workplace at the time.
Okay, so you got 9 sessions in total.
Yeah. And then I've basically had
now what?
Private therapy every week since then in some form or another. So I had formal counselling or therapy, different types of therapy, talking therapies for about 12 years. I had like 13 counsellors in that time. So again, I didn't have any stability with any of those people for any length of time.
So help us to kind of see the picture. So you had 3 that were initially offered to you to have those sessions.
Yeah.
Then I'm assuming it was a separate person through work that you had to start again with all of the information that you'd already told the first person. Yeah. And then you have to go off and find somebody private. So it's yet another different person.
Yeah. Right. And then I moved every 2 years for about 10 years.
And I'm going to ask this question that I think, a lot of people want to answer. And part of the reason I'm asking this is because I'm a great podcast listener myself. So no surprise that I've got my own podcast. And I'm sure you are as well. Because you can, depending on who the podcast host is, there are some who are excellent at asking really super duper questions and some not so good. But I listened to somebody try to differentiate, and I'm not going to say who it was because it's a very famous author and speaker who defined coaching as basically somebody who helps you to reach your goals, and a therapist as somebody who kind of helps you to understand the childhood stuff, right? And that was just like, I'm like, okay, I'm not sure that I would oversimplify it in that way.
That is a very, very simple way of putting it.
And I kind of went, oh dear. But for you, and this is why it's important, because that's obviously her interpretation of the difference between the two. Doesn't make it right or wrong, it's just hers. But for you, this was all talking therapy. So what did you find that you were getting from it? Because obviously to pay privately, to go weekly for the amount of time that you did, it was obviously doing something positive for you. Or was it?
Well, I thought it was the right thing.
Right.
I thought it was what I needed. But again, knowing now what I knew then, it wasn't moving me anywhere. It was keeping me stuck. I was telling my story over and over and over again.
Right.
So many times.
Did it help you to have somebody who was listening to what you were saying and who you were able to? Right. And so I think this is important because sometimes we don't have that person in our lives as a friend or whatever. And this is where therapy can be just that little missing piece to help us to be able to keep on going and kind of surviving, as it were.
From where you were, to where I am now. If I hadn't had that time of just starting to build something for myself, a space that I could speak, and it wasn't about them, it was about me. Although, again, looking back, I managed what I said so that, I was received in the right way. So they liked me and approved of me, like all that stuff was still happening. But that gradual process was vital.
And I think that's a really important thing that you said there, because if anybody is going to therapy at the moment and they recognize that they are doing exactly that, they are managing what is being said so that it comes across in the right way, so that you will be perceived in a certain way, and you kind of are still playing that I want to be a good girl and do this right. Let them know that is part of the process. I think that's so important that you've shared that, because a lot of people will kind of go, well, I'm doing that. And I don't know whether other people do it, so I'm not going to kind of say anything. But I know that I did that. I know that a lot of the people that I've worked with absolutely did that as well. And I think it's recognizing that over time, and tell me if this was your experience, did you start doing that less and less?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I'm in a completely different place now.
Yeah. So it served its purpose for you.
Absolutely.
Until you recognize that, but I'm still sort of stuck.
Yeah, nothing's changed.
Right.
Even these different people, I'm talking about things, I have a deeper understanding of myself, and I know why and when that started, and the feeling that came up with that person and this person and that situation. But I was still anxious. I was still having panic attacks. I was still ruled by anxiety. I was still self-medicating with alcohol. There was no change.
So you got the awareness and you'd got the knowledge, but you hadn't got kind of the missing bit, because you were still experiencing all of the same symptoms.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And it's what you share. I remember one of the first therapists, absolutely appalling looking back now. It's like, how was she in business? But I couldn't really afford to pay for it. You know, I was not earning very much money. I was 20, 21.
Yeah.
And I said that to her, like, I can't really afford. She's like, well, you should just ask your family. They're part of the problem after all, kind of thing. It was like,
right.
Wow. I went, okay. Didn't mention it to my family. Couldn't find a way to. I didn't want to worry them. I didn't want to blame them. It was just, and I just said to her, okay, and then struggled.
Yeah. So, right. And I think that's such an important thing as well, because understanding that if you're in a state of anxiety, and this is a person who knew a little bit about you, to make the comment that she made about your family being part of the problem, but then expecting you to go to them and ask them for something means that, you're right, she probably wasn't very good at her job.
No. And also I was crying at one point, and she said, yeah, I think we need to change the dynamic. You need to turn away from me so you can't see me. So she made me lie on the bed looking away from her.
Wow. Okay.
So she just shut me down. Yeah, shut me down in a different way. It was,
And this, again, for people listening who, this is not common in all therapies. If you're going, oh my God, I was thinking about therapy, now you're putting me no. Because I think the important thing to say is there are different modalities of therapy. And this is part of the reason why I didn't become a therapist, because there are so many kind of categories and methodologies and rules within these methodologies of how you should treat your patient, your client, whatever terminology you use. And this is why none of it gelled with me, because I don't understand how you can stick to one set of patterns and rules when every human comes with a different story and is a different personality, etc. So you recognize that she wasn't great for you.
Yeah, I didn't recognize at the time, and I was with her for a few months.
Right. And struggling to pay for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me, I had a client before, and she'd had 8 years of psychotherapy and never talked about an emotion.
Whoa.
Scary. It was all theory, disconnected, didn't relate to her or her pretty traumatic childhood.
Wowzers.
So when I met her, we started doing that. But again, maybe people need that. You are where you are, and you can't suddenly start feeling your emotions and processing your trauma if you can't function as a human. You've got to
right. And I think we've got to recognize that we don't know how she went into those sessions. And because by the time she came to you, she potentially wasn't the same person who went to that therapist in the first place. But recognizing that there are a lot of unfortunate stories, and I've experienced, as I say, firsthand, but also, through my mum, I went with my mum to see her therapist, and I would get so angry and cross because of the way that he spoke to her, so condescending, so not listening to what she was saying, just dismissing. And I would come out of there furious, absolutely furious, and damning the NHS to hell and high water. But obviously, when he said to me, well, what does a 14-year-old know about any of this stuff? And I felt like saying, actually, I know my mum a damn sight better than you.
Yeah, exactly.
But that wouldn't have gone down well. And so I think we have to recognize that therapy has its place, but it's not for everybody. And it can sometimes be detrimental, except it can push you to doing what that lady's therapist did, to find an alternative that actually is the right person.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So you kept having all of this therapy for 2 years, and then you realized you're stuck, and it's like, so what was the next step for you?
Well, I tried different. I moved house, so then I tried a different therapy. I started running. I stopped drinking for a little while. I took myself off antidepressants because I didn't want to be on medication. Yeah.
Right.
I started being more aware of my body. As I say, I was running, I was being more physical. I moved in with a friend of mine, and we set up an art business together in her mum's garage in Middlesbrough. So I moved from London. I was working at the Royal Opera House in London. I moved up north.
Wow.
We had such a good time. We laughed all the time, drank a lot of wine, did a lot of dancing, made absolutely no money, but we had a great time. And I was still seeking therapy at that time, and still looking for some help, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Still having anxiety, not surprisingly, drinking all that wine.
Well, yeah, but you don't realize, and that's such an important point, isn't it? Because people drink to release that anxiety, and here's the thing: it works initially. It does, because it works fast, and it is a depressant. So of course it reduces those high anxiety emotions. But the downside is that it actually creates more anxiety the next day. And so you're on this cycle without realizing of reduce the anxiety to get more anxiety, that then you need to drink more to keep reducing it. And so the cycle goes on. But how did you get into like the running? Did you just kind of decide to start running, or had you read that potentially it was help? Or
a friend of mine worked for Childline, and there was the they do a 10K, I think, every or 5K or something every year. And she was very persuasive when she made all of us sign up. So like, oh, okay, I'll just do that. So I think it was 3K actually. Anyway, we did it around Hyde Park. So I just did that, and I was like, oh, I quite like this. Brilliant. And I remember I ran with my dad a couple of times when I was a kid, and I did the 400 meters at primary school, and we were at the sports day, and I was kind of going slower and slower, and then we went past my school, and I can remember going, sprint! I went, oh, okay. And I went from like last and came second or something. Like, oh, amazing. I can do it. So I really enjoyed it, and I felt better emotionally, physically. I really enjoyed that. Right. Yeah.
Cool. So you discovered it really by accident, but it helped.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's right. Yeah. So that was. Then we were doing the art stuff for a couple of years. Then we moved back down south because we were spending all our time making lovely things and then driving down the M1 to sell it in London, because nobody in Middlesbrough bought art stuff at that time. Right. Well, yeah, they did, but we spent, we were going to Manchester markets and we were having a good time driving around the country. But we moved back to my parents, still looking for help, and I was like 27 at this point, working in a pub.
Right.
And then I had what I've called the Jerry Springer year, which I'm not going to go into in too much detail, which ended up with me becoming pregnant with my wonderful son. And that is when life really began to change overnight. I stopped smoking, stopped drinking when I was pregnant, and just stopped smoking altogether from that point as well. And I just started like, I have to look after myself. Right. This person inside of me needs me to look after me. Right. And that's when things really... I think I cried every day up to that point.
Really? And so by that point, had you kind of given up on the whole looking for a therapist idea, or were you still still dabbling in it?
Yeah, I remember seeing somebody, I got another benefit of therapy, being pregnant. I got a sort of midwife counsellor. So I kind of everywhere I could get something.
You got it.
I was working with her for like through the pregnancy and those kind of things. So I was wherever I could, I would get some therapy and help.
Cool. So you weren't always trying to manage this stuff by yourself. You were in a position where you were able to at least open up and talk to somebody about what was happening, what you were feeling, what was going on. Amazing. Yeah, cool. So you have your son.
I do. He's now 22.
Amazing stuff. And obviously then, so you got through the pregnancy, so it's what happened, because obviously it changes everything, and hormones come into play and all of that good stuff too. And did you feel afterwards that you were able to cope with what was then your new life?
Well, it's so different, as you say. Everything changes, and I actually moved into a flat on my own on the day that he was due. So it was pretty challenging. Yeah, as I say, it was a bit of a Jerry Springer time, but I was a single parent when he was born. and I didn't sleep for more than 5 hours for 6 months. So, you know, when you have a baby, everything becomes about them.
Totally.
Yeah. And what was it? Because he was the priority, and I knew that I had to be okay for him, and not just okay, I had to be good for him and strong for him. It was like everything just started to change. When he was 2, I'd met my husband by that point, and we moved to a farm. I'm just trying to remember what's important, what isn't, because we were living somewhere. We kind of got picked up and dropped into this farm. We had to move out of our house. Within 2 weeks, we'd moved into a new property. 2 weeks before Christmas.
Oh, just good timing.
Okay. Oh, we live here now. And that was incredible because we moved to a dairy farm. Right. And our landlord and landlady, he became really good friends of ours, and he had lots of diversification on the farm. So we set up a yurt village so I used to manage the yurt village for him together. And then we started setting up mind skills courses. So he was really interested in NLP. He told me about tapping,
right,
which was what I call the gateway therapy, because that's the thing that really changed my life. So, but we would talk about those things, and we wanted to share different techniques with people because we could recognize that we felt like this and we did this and then we felt better. So him and I would sort of spend hours talking about the universe and different ways of changing. So that was wonderful.
I love this because you're talking about the universe, and the universe, you know, basically got you to be in that situation with that person and recognize it. And this is why I mean, we know, not saying we know, but I believe that there is no such thing as coincidence, that the universe ultimately is in charge. We are not. And people come into our lives and we don't always recognize it at the time for a purpose. And some of them are for life and some of them are for a chapter or two. But they all serve a purpose that we either recognize at the time or we don't. But we definitely, in hindsight, will see that this human changed so many things for me. And this happens multiple times throughout our lives, doesn't it? Absolutely. And so you discovered tapping. So I think tapping now is something that a lot of people have heard of, but they don't necessarily understand why it works. And for you, and I think when you're having a discussion with somebody else, does it actually matter the why, but just the fact that it does, that you can do this thing and you know that you feel better afterwards. And so keep on doing it. And so you discovered that. And for you, you said it was life-changing. So tell us more about why was it so life-changing for you?
Well, first of all, it was something that I could do for myself.
Yeah.
And all those years of therapy and talking about, I feel like this, or this happened to me, or basically I was in that victim mode for so long. But my last therapist counselor, I started sort of doing different processes with her. My friend used to call it the crying club, but it's actually the psychology of vision framework, which is a whole year course, and there's some shamanic rituals in there. There's kind of acknowledging emotions, all the work I do now. That's kind of where I learned it all in there. I can't remember what I was going to say. What was I saying just before then?
So you were talking about how the EFT tapping, what it actually did for you.
I started learning about beliefs and how we hold our past with us and how to start to impact that and change that and choose something else. And I started feeling different. And I went from throwing my son in through the school gates going, oh, sorry if I'm busy, rushing off, to becoming a school governor, to giving talks, to being able to sit around the table without having to, the doom tummy was clearing. Amazing. I felt in control of my life for the first time. And it was after I started tapping that happened.
So without a shadow of a doubt for you, you could definitely feel the significant difference that it made. And this is such an important thing for people to hear, because one modality doesn't suit everybody. But if you find the one that works for you, then it can make the world of difference to who you are being, how you were showing up, and the stuff that you're doing that you never thought. If we'd have said to 21-year-old Jamima that you would have been doing, you're going to be like running the school governors and meetings, you would just be like, don't be ridiculous. But you were doing it. Incredible.
Absolutely. Yes. And that's why I call it the gateway therapy, because I then learned hypnotherapy, NLP, like all the stuff. We'd kind of, that works. So this whole, and all of it has the same intention.
Correct.
Everything I'm doing and teaching when working with my clients is like, I want you to feel better. This is how you can do it. You want to feel better. These are the most effective ways that we can do. And no two sessions are the same ever, because it's like, now you need this will help here, this part will help here. But all of it is about moving through and processing that trauma.
And this is the beauty of what you've just described there, isn't it? Is that there are different tools for different times, and you have permission to switch and utilize the ones that work for you in that moment. And it's so important, I think, to help people to recognize that something like EFT is free. You don't need any tools. You don't need to be anywhere special. You don't have to set yourself up, or you can literally do it should you need to, like in a toilet cubicle. If you're at a social event and you're starting to feel, you can do it anywhere, can't you? Obviously,
you don't even have to know what it is that you're feeling or what's going wrong. You can just go, I want to do something.
Right. And I think this is where, when I started to get into a lot of these modalities, as we all kind of do, because I very much understand the power of the nervous system and the brain and the whole gut brain connection, and it's part of the reason why I never continued doing my addiction masters, because they didn't want to hear any of that stuff. But that was back in 2008, and hopefully, I don't know, but I'm hoping that things have changed in the psychology world now, that they do recognize that the mind-body connection, the gut, the nervous system, everything's talking to everything else. But what I also found, and this is interesting, is that with EFT, I kind of got the tapping side of it, but I never got doing the whole script side of it, because I used to worry, and this is again shows how that anxiety kicks in about getting it wrong. And I wouldn't be able to do it unless I had a script. So it stopped me from utilizing it until I just went, you know what? What if I just don't use a script? What if I just do the tapping, and lo and behold, you know what? I still got the benefits. And so this is where I think we've got to be so careful with some of these alternative therapies, that there are ways that we can be taught, but it doesn't have to be the way.
Absolutely. It's like driving.
Right.
Yeah. Brilliant. You make it, you learn how to drive a vehicle. You can do it without thinking, and you can get yourself anywhere. We'll all do it slightly differently. Do we do this, or do we do this? And
that's the joy. So you went into those different modalities then, and so tell us more now about what you actually do with people, and how it kind of changed everything for you.
Yeah. Well, 6 months after I trained, I did about 6 months of swapping with all my colleagues that had trained with me, and I did all that personal development work, and I was starting to get out there. So I started to look at, I'm going to be a therapist. This is my, I handed my notice in and did all that. And I started working at Grey Shot Spa, which was the first also alternative therapy spa in the country, basically. So they were putting people in tanks and things in the 60s. Those things like they were
but it was ahead of its kind of day, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was.
For those people who don't know, Grey Shot Hall, Google it. Right, and you'll find out about the history of it.
Beautiful, sadly it closed in lockdown. It's no longer a hotel.
Yeah, I know, but you can still find out about it, because it was way ahead of its time, wasn't it?
Yeah. So they were very open to alternative therapy. So I started offering EFT there. And when I went the first day, the woman who ran the talk said, how do you feel about giving a talk about EFT? I was like, oh, okay, sure. Rocked up, put something together, talked about beliefs causing how trauma impacts us, and I just kind of basically condensed the training I'd had into an hour talk, and I'd give a demo.
Fabulous.
And then people would book in. So for 6 years, I did that talk every month for 6 years at Grey Shot, and then people would book in sessions. So I had 55 minutes with each person in order to show them the benefit of EFT, to create a shift in them, well, for them to create the shift, but for them to have that experience. And I still have clients now from 15 years ago that I met there, because they were like, I remember one person saying, I feel like I've just had 5 years of therapy in 1 hour.
Right. And that is the joy of it. When you hear comments like that, you just know this is incredible. Yeah.
So that was the start of my career, and then I had a room in London for a while, and then everything changed with lockdown. But basically the work I'm doing, I'm helping people to reconnect to their self-value. That's what's happening underneath.
Nice.
On the surface, it's like, this is my problem, I feel anxious, or I'm trying to do this and I keep getting blocked. So we find the emotion and we trace it back, and it's all about healing those past pictures, those past memories that are still impacting. So basically we have the active part of the brain where traumatic memories are stored when they haven't been processed, so they feel like they're real. And we have the memory part of the brain, like we go to sleep, we have REM sleep, we process what happened that day and it gets moved into the past. But we have an awful lot of memories that haven't had that processing. So a memory we have, the first day of school, you can kind of go, oh yeah, I felt like this in my tummy, I felt this, I was like, it's because it's still active in your brain, in your mind, it's still part of who you are, and that's going to get triggered daily.
And this is, I love the way that you've described that, because people can kind of visualize that happening. But through the process, you've written a book, which is incredible. So tell us about just the process of writing a book, and how was that for you? Because I love the title, 100 Stress-Free Days.
100 Stress-Free Days. Yeah, I was just thinking, I've got one here. It's over there. I'll grab it. But 100 Stress-Free Days. In 2021, there was a project, lots of things were going around Instagram, weren't they, in lockdown? And it was post 100 happy pictures, and you had to post a photo every day for 100 days. I was like, that's nice. So I started doing it, and I was like, I could do that with de-stress techniques. So I decided I'm going to do 100 videos on de-stress technique a day. So I write down 100 ideas, like, brilliant. And I just started showing up 1 minute video every day for 100 days. Fantastic. With a different process. And day 50, I was like, this is a lot, isn't it?
Halfway through.
Yeah, exactly. But I really enjoyed doing it. And when it had finished, I didn't go on Instagram for 2 months. It was meant to like sort of start a habit. It was like, that's plenty. But then I just had the idea to turn it into a book, basically. So just have the technique. So you got a photo, you got a description of the technique, and then in the back there's a journal, so you could try the technique and see what worked. And you can start taking, because I'm always about practicality, and I want the 19-year-old me needed this book. That's why I created it.
Right. And this is where you said right at the beginning, a lot of us go into this field because we want to help others, but we also want to be the person that would have been the person we wanted to go to when we needed help.
Exactly.
And I know that that's absolutely the case, that that's why I do what I do, because there was nobody who was putting all of the pieces together. There was somebody who did this and somebody who did that and somebody who did the other, but nobody did all of it. And the frustration to me back then, I told you how frustrated I used to get with my mum's therapist. But also the journaling part, but on the back of that, then you also do a monthly journaling session, don't you? Which I absolutely love. Are you still running that now?
Yeah. Well, on the last Friday of the month, 1 o'clock UK time, for half an hour, I do lunchtime with Jamima, it's called.
Yeah.
And each month it's a slightly different thing. So last time we did some journaling, live journaling and tapping. So I was like, how do you feel? Journal, then we'll tap. How do you want to feel? Journal, tap. So like, again, teaching really practical steps for people to kind of go, oh, actually, that works. And I've just recognized this. And because I believe we're here to be happy. And if we're not happy, we need to heal. So it's like, we can't do that on our own. We heal through relationship, whether that's in personal relationship, or as you say, those relationships, reason, season, or lifetime, people who show up. Those angel moments where someone overhear a conversation, you're like, oh, I need to know that. That's that kind of angel moment. But we're all looking to love ourselves. I really believe that to be happy, we need to heal the parts of ourselves that are still holding the pain from the past.
I couldn't agree more.
Ways.
And but the beauty is, you said there are many different ways of doing it, and I think a lot of people will try something and go, oh my God, that's it. There's something wrong with me. This doesn't work for me. And I think because you offer so many different alternatives, and you can have that conversation and go, well, okay, try this, see how it feels. And allow yourself to be honest with yourself. Is it actually working? Is it helping, or is it not? Okay, well, that's okay, because you know what, there's this, and then there's also this, and we could look at this, and we can do this. And this is where, when people realize that it's not about a technique failing or them failing because there's something wrong with them, it's just about finding the right stuff that works for you on your journey at that time.
Absolutely.
What you're trying to actually, what part of the process you're in, as to what is the thing that works for you. So now you have unleashed something else. Haven't you? Tell us about it.
Yeah. So I've always worked with some clients I've worked with for years, but I've been having a package that's like 6 sessions. It's called Mini Breakthrough. Like, here's your problem, we'll get through in 6 sessions, and we'll change it. And then we have a sort of, this is the problem I have, okay, and this is the solution. But often that turns into longer term, because there's this. Correct. So I'm now opening that out. I've created a program called Your Life Unleashed, and it's about longer term. So it's deeper. It's sessions are longer. You get 2 90-minute sessions a month, plus support in between, because it doesn't, our problems don't come up in 90-minute sessions. They come up through the week. So there's support through, I'm teaching techniques, self-care techniques all the way along. But the majority of it with beginning with finding those early traumas and early pictures and healing those. And that's, as we said right at the beginning, that's the therapy part. You're Absolutely. Healing all the past until you get to a point, go, great, I've got this base level now. What do I want now?
Right.
You want to not do what you've done all this time. What's the new behavior? What does that look like? And I also offer a coaching package, which is 3 20-minute sessions a week.
Right.
For 6 months or a year. So that could be, instead of that therapy, if you've kind of got to a point where I just want to move forward, or as a continuation. But
Absolutely.
It's all about
where, we recognize that we change and we adapt when we realize what actually helps people, what doesn't help people. And like you, I have people who've stayed with me for years, but we're not dealing with the thing now that they first came to me for, because they have changed their process, their identity, and also life changes as we age, our circumstances change, and recognizing there's a lot of stuff beyond our control, but we still have to learn how we can manage that in the way that works for us. And there's some people, it's not managing it, it's just recognizing that you actually have the tools, you're just not utilizing them, and we just need to help you to be able to learn the practical skills of doing what you need to do. And recognizing that, not being scared, I think, to realize that it's okay for this stuff to take a little while, because it is a process, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I think what you've offered there is a nice selection of timeframes for people to kind of go, you know what, I like the sound of that. That doesn't feel too overwhelming to start with. And it may be that somebody wants to buy the book, and then they want to jump on one of your 30-minute sessions, and then they kind of go, oh, do you know what? Actually, perhaps the 20 minutes sounds quite good. And then when they experience that, they may go, oh, actually, potentially, I want to go for the longer term thing. And this is where it's recognizing each person has a starting point for them, but giving them the options to follow what feels not too overwhelming, so that we don't exacerbate the feelings.
Humans need to move very slowly.
Correct. Yeah.
We don't like change.
Right. And this is where we've got to help people to realize sometimes you do want slow and sometimes you want fast. And it's recognizing that you want to be with somebody who gets that. Because there are some phases that certain people will work through really, really quickly, and it will take other people an awfully long time. But it doesn't mean that it's not the right thing or the right time. It just means everybody's got a different way of processing and being able to allow what needs to happen internally to happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like you said, our own experiences that you and I have received impacts the way, like, we're flexible. Because of the way we were treated in certain situations, you completely understand what it feels like to be on the receiving end of that and not be heard, not be seen, to be rushed or to be hurried. And when you have that total understanding of meeting the person where they are, then the world is their oyster. And absolutely. I had one client I worked with. We had 1 2.5 hour session because she had a terrible horse riding accident, which 18 months later, she was still crying. She couldn't talk about it. Whoa. So we broke down that whole incident minute by minute, basically, and cleared at each moment using EFT and different processes, but essentially processing. And one session, she's completely resolved of all of that. And what was fascinating is that when in the accident, she sort of flew through the air. We froze that moment. Every single negative core belief she held about herself came up in that moment, split second across her mind. I'm stupid. I shouldn't be doing this. I'm dangerous. And she had no conscious awareness of any of that. But that's what's underneath all those tears every time she thought about it. It's too much. You can't do that on your own.
Yeah, right. You can't. And that is the key thing. You can't do it on your own. And so knowledge is fantastic and awareness is awesome. But you need to be able to be with somebody who can help you to do what needs to be done for you at the right time and in the right way. And as much as it's nothing to do with intelligence, is it? It's everything to do with.
I wouldn't try and fix my car because I have no idea. It would be
but
more
even
broken.
If you know, even if you read the manuals and you go, right, on a knowing level,
check on YouTube.
I get how this works. But then the practicalities of actually doing it, and then recognizing that you need to be able to speak to somebody who can also help you to understand how you may feel afterwards, because it's not just doing the thing, is it? As you start to change, it's a little bit scary, it's a little bit exciting in equal measure, and then there's that kind of little voice that goes, yeah, but what if it doesn't last? What if I revert back? And all of those, which somebody who's gone through this process understands that thinking and how it can actually feel that kind of equal amounts of scary and exciting. But if you don't have that conversation and somebody's experiencing this, again, we get this, oh my God, am I doing it wrong? What's happening? Should it feel like this? Does it feel worse before it gets better? Well, actually, yes, a lot of the time it can do. But if you don't have that conversation, or you're not able to ask the questions because you haven't got the connection, like you were explaining with your talking therapist, where you wouldn't have asked those questions because you still want to be the good girl to some degree, and get therapy right. But this allows you to recognize, and I hope the people listening realize that there is so much that can help you, but finding the right person who you feel a connection with, that you feel you can open up with, is absolutely crucial, isn't it?
Absolutely, is everything. It really is. The modality, as you said, is not important. How you get there doesn't matter. Like if you're with the right person and they say go and stand on your head in a field for 3 weeks and it will work. Okay, like you said, it's the permission to release, to feel better. I can remember having a conscious thought when I was about 20, when I started therapy, I was like 20, 22, something like that, thinking I don't want to do this work because it's going to make me arrogant.
Right.
I was like, and I have done that work. And I don't think I'm arrogant. Maybe I am. I don't care. Like that's what's good now.
You wouldn't have been able to feel comfortable saying that to anybody. And then even sometimes you're ashamed of thinking that thought, or you think that thought is correct, so maybe I better not do the work.
Thankfully, I ignored it and carried on. But
yes, you did.
We have all this resistance and thought, but we put a lot of emphasis. We listen to our thoughts. We listen to what's going on, and we think, and our emotions, and we think it means that it's something's true. But the monster under the bed is a pair of shoes. It's not a monster. Like when you can stop and face and go, what? Think about what I'm thinking about. Is this helpful? Does this feel good to me? I can choose something else. And basically we feel like we don't have the choice. That's often the case. Like this stuff is happening to me, or these thoughts are happening. It's like you can, I always talk about, Buddha talks about the second arrow. The first arrow is that external stimulus. Someone said something to me or something happened. The second arrow comes from you. What do I do? How do I respond to this insult or this incident or this situation? That's the choice. You don't have to
And the beauty of what you offer is that it can come in so many different guises, and it's a bit like being a kid in a sweet shop. You can kind of pick and mix your way through your journey, especially when you've got somebody who isn't solely focused on one modality. And I think that's why we connected so well, because we're on the same page. There's so many different things and they all do work. And as long as you are taught the techniques in a way that you feel you can implement it practically for you, it doesn't have to be a perfect way or a right way. If it's working, do it. If it stops working, find something
else.
Exactly. And that's the joy of it. So we're going to put your where you hang out. So where do you hang out mainly on? So are you on social media? You're hanging out on your website? Where go people find you?
Instagram, LinkedIn mainly. I have a website, JamimaBlazdell.com.
Cool.
I also have a YouTube channel. I've got videos on there, different webinars, and all my tips from the 100 Stress-Free Days are on there, all the minute videos.
Yeah, and I'm guessing your book is available, all good booksellers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also on my website. I have self-esteem workbook on there as well, an audio program, so you can, it's 21 different tapping audios, you can listen along. And you've just got a library of different processes that you
so there's loads of opportunities for people to kind of try before they buy, sort of thing, and get a taste of what they can actually do for themselves. And a lot of it is free, as you've said.
So my free lunchtime on the last Friday of the month is probably a good place to start. You can just rock up. It's live streamed on YouTube and in Zoom, so you can kind of join in Zoom, or you can just watch on YouTube if you'd rather not be in the room. But
fantastic. That's a really good opening kind of opportunity for people to just have a go. And that's, one of my favorite sayings that came to me like donkeys years ago when I was actually in the fitness industry was, you never know till you have a go, because none of us know what we are actually capable of until we actually experience it. And that means practically do the thing. Because knowing isn't doing, and that's why the practical side of EFT is so cool, because you are doing the doing. Nobody's doing it to you. No one's doing it for you. You are doing it for you, and it's just so fast, and it's one of those things that when you go, oh my God, yes, it just allows you then to be a little bit more open-minded about what else is possible.
Absolutely. We don't realize what's available, we
don't, right? And again, it falls back into we don't know what we don't know, and then we have to open our minds up a little bit to be curious, to give these things a try. And as you said, it falls back to permission. Just give yourself the permission to just get curious. And jump onto Gemma's monthly thing and check out her website, maybe have a look at what's going on YouTube, and just give yourself the opportunity to see what could work for you.
And also for free call. So if anyone wants just to have a chat or ask a bit more, there's, dive in. I was just going to
say, you must have read my mind then. I was just going to say, if anybody who does actually want to contact you, so they can literally, and can they book a chat through your website?
They can, You jump on the book your session, takes you to the clarity call, and then we go from there. Or you can email me, or you can WhatsApp me, any which way that feels good.
All of your information and details are on the website, and we'll put all of those links that you've mentioned, including a link to purchase the book, which I know is on your website, but we'll put that on as well. And obviously your new program, assuming, is on your website now for people to read more about. So I want to say thank you for being such an awesome guest. I know you and I could probably actually make this like a 3-hour episode,
Definitely.
but we're not going to do that. Maybe we should do a part 2 later on when you can come back and talk about some of the people who've been through some of your programs, and maybe that would be amazing. Case studies would be awesome. However, I'm going to ask you the question that I always ask my guests before they leave, and my question is this. What is the one thing that you would like the listener to take away from this episode?
Well, the one thing that has driven me, that's sort of taken a while to realize what was going on, but it is about, like, we're here for ourselves, and no one else in your life is going to feel any better or do any better if you don't do the work for yourself. Like, I've had 30 years of therapy, and I will never stop having therapy, because that's what I need in order to be the best person that I can be, so that everyone around me can benefit. So self-value is what it's all about. Valuing yourself, doing what you need to do to be happy.
Love it. I love it. Thank you, Gemma, so much. And for those of you watching and listening, if you have enjoyed what you've heard, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. And if you think that this episode would be super helpful to somebody that you know, please pass the links on to them, because what we're sharing here is important to us all. It's not a secret, and we want to share as much as we can about how we humans can help ourselves to just feel better, to look after ourselves, and as you have beautifully put it, Jamima, to recognize that self-value is key to being happy. Thank you.
Thank
And
you
I'm
so
going to leave
much.
you with
Really
this.
loved it.
You're welcome. I'm going to leave you all with this, guys, as I always do. We only have one life as far as we know, and one body. So please look after it, because it is looking after you. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Thank you, Jamima.
Bye.
Bye-bye.